Thanks, Jared. Hello and welcome to the Midweek Tackle. So much footy news to get stuck into, so let's get right into it. I'm joined by Corbin, Middlemas and John Ralph. Ralphie, you first told us the story about Sam Docherty this morning and his retirement. How did it actually unfold today? It is that time of year, but what played out there?
What a player, what an inspiration, Corbin. Yeah. He sniffed the win perfectly. He'd been criticised. His form hadn't been amazing the last 6 weeks, so he timed it perfectly. He knew when to pull the pin. He'd had some honest conversations there with Michael Voss about it. And he also knew that he was content to retire. He had a range of interests. He had family, he had business, he had media to transition into next year. So that Thursday farewell against Carlton, prime time, against Hawthorn rather, felt right. He might not have won the flag that he and Patrick Cripps promised each other, but so twice he came back from testicular cancer, once stage 4 that had spread into his stomach and also his lungs, and he came back from 3 ACL tears. And so I think he's one of the rare players, Corbin, that won't be defined by the winning or the losing of an AFL premiership.
100%, and he's a champion of the Carlton Football Club and of the game, even though it'll read, 184 games by the time it's done, and yet he's been so much more as a figure to this footy club. The other thing that strikes me is ordinarily guys that are heart and soul players for one club, like we'll always think of Sam Docherty as a Carlton man and the guy that is the heart and soul leader of the group, and yet he came from another club, and he was part of the go-home 5 that left the Brisbane Lions. And yet, it says a lot about who he is and what a great human interest story it is for everything that he's overcome. He was on AFL 360 a short time ago and spoke about just what kind of legacy, I guess, he will leave.
Through my circumstances, have been left in a position that that gets to do that, and I love it. I hang on to every message that I get that I've inspired hope. I just saw a video from Noah from Perth, a little boy that had cancer when he was a kid, bawling his eyes out that I retired today. That's the stuff that sort of drives you, and that's what I got to do. And yeah, given the cards that I got dealt, I didn't get probably exactly what I wanted from a personal perspective, but in the end, that doesn't really matter. I got so much more.
Well, boys, an incredibly inspirational figure across 2 clubs. I'm sure they'll send him off in style this week, Ralphie. But as I said earlier, it does get to this crunch time of year, doesn't it? Particularly for teams like Carlton that are out of the finals. These list conundrums really start to come to the fore. And there's a few of them in play at the Blues. I mean, starting with the elephant in the room, really, Tom De Koning, and how they're going to spend that cap space. Yeah,
so not only do they have $1 million a year of cap space for the next 7 years, they've got a top 10 pick. That will be the compensation selection. So you use both of those to try and get a pacey midfielder or that elite small forward that's not on the list right now. Now, they can go to the market. It's not an amazing draft. So you try and use that pick for an established star. You've got young Dean coming in as probably the best father-son, the best defensive father-son out there. If you don't use it, you lose that pick. So I think if you're Carlton, you go to the market and you're really excited.
Well, Jay Clark reported yesterday that Collingwood could make a play for, of course, favourite son Jack Silvagni. Corbin, I guess that's another thing they've got to weigh up, whether they weigh up that 5-year bid. And
the first of those things might knock into the second. That maybe the cap room that they save on Silvagni gives them a chance to make a better deal to Jack Silvagni. I mean, he's probably worth a lot more than what he was 12 months ago in the role that he's playing for this footy club. He's been able to have some consistent form. So it's a fascinating one there. I'm sure the Pies, they would love to just shake the tree here at this particular time to see exactly how on edge people are at Carlton, but that does at least give them a little bit more flexibility if De Koning goes and a bit more room to work with.
Yeah, getting their hands on it or developing a really quality small forward too is probably another.
So I'm not sure there's a small forward on the list right now that's going to win him a final. Now, there might be someone like Jesse Motlop who you might recontract, but they've got about 8 of them and none of them seem to be that amazing. You can't go for a free agent small forward like Kalachi because you're about to lose Tom De Koning. So that basically, under the net gain system, you dilute the free agency pick. So, maybe the Zach Baileys of the world, they'd probably take multiple first-round picks. It's really challenging. GWS has about 4 or 5 of them, many of them not playing. So you're really smart. Again, it's not the mosquito fleet, it's the March flies right now. They're easy to kill, the Carlton small forward. So go out and get a couple with those picks and slot them in and plug them and play from round 1 next year.
And if you're Graham Wright coming into the role, and Michael Voss for that matter, I mean, there's trade offers for the big 3, aren't there? Charlie Curnow, Harry McKay and Sam Walsh.
Yeah, well, we've told you a couple of times now that Charlie Curnow is grumpy. Now, reports from 9 today that Carlton has had to tell him they're not trading him to a club like the Gold Coast, that he's looking around, there's various reasons that he's grumpy. He's got 4 years left on a deal. I can't see that would work at Gold Coast. All right, we'll trade you to Gold Coast. You're a generational player. We'll have Matt Rowell. No. We'll have Noah Anderson. OK, no. We'll have Ben King. So it's easier to say that one generational player would move. It's so rare to get 2 players of almost equal stature to swap clubs, especially when Gold Coast is flying right now. So they can't trade their big 3, Corbin, or can they?
I spoke to people close to this today, and essentially their feeling was, and they're the three names that are constantly mentioned, Curnow, Mackay and Walsh, that at least one of them wouldn't be there next year. So
really?
And we know that Graham Wright, he doesn't have a lot of flexibility in the way things look at the moment. That would obviously give him some. The other thing I can tell you tonight is there has been at least half a dozen players meet with Graham Wright in recent weeks, basically to search a direction for the club, which is hardly surprising given the comments from the president a couple of weeks ago that we're going to wait until the end of the season, reassess what it looks like. And so a number of senior players have already basically tried to get ahead of things, go and chat to Graham Wright themselves and work out exactly what it looks like moving forward. So those conversations have already started, even though there's still 5 games to go.
So it's not a little informal review, him asking them questions. They're demanding answers from Graham Wright.
They're saying, what's this going to look like next year? How significant is the change going to be?
Well, another major name at the helm, of course, is the president, Robert Priestley, Ralphie. He's relatively unknown, for want of a better term, in footy circles, but you've done a deep dive on him for tomorrow's paper.
So who the hell is Robert Priestley? He's football's accidental president. So parachuted into the job by the Luke Sayers saga. Now, of course, elevated from vice president. Look at him, genial fellow, hail well met, shakes everyone's hand. What's emerged from this deep dive, speaking to the likes of Andrew Pridham and David Barham and Jeff Brown, is that he's a nice, genial fellow with a stone-cold killer disposition when he wants to be. The head of JP Morgan Australia. If he sacks Michael Voss, he's probably made 1,000 more consequential business decisions than that one. So when he told the media Michael Voss basically had his contract up for grabs at the end of this year, he'd already told Michael and the football department everything is up for grabs. So the really interesting aspect of this one is that his wife, Alexandra Goodfellow, is on the Sydney Swans board. She's the head of Corn Ferry Australia. She's a major heavy hitter herself. So if Priestley wants the best information available on John Longmire, who has just left the Sydney Swans, you don't have to go and look at the AFL tables. You don't have to go and ask the man himself. You go and ask your wife and you say, is this bloke the man? 12 finals out of 14 completed seasons. We know that that the finals campaign ended really badly. He was cooked. Do you think he's got the fire in the belly still? Yeah, really interesting little scenario, that.
It is compelling, I suppose, whether they're talking shop in the lounge room, as you say, Ralphie. It's a very unique situation. As we saw on AFL 360, of course, Marcus Bontempelli, the second highest rated Bulldog of all time, as he is, will remain as such a Bulldog until the end of 2029. You've got some more details on that deal. Yeah,
we flagged that 4-year deal on Sunday. The deal's around $1.35 million. It is scandalously underpaid for Marcus Bontempelli. Who would have thought that? 1.35 underpaid. So he's 33 in the last season. He turns 33 in November, so he plays that final season at 33. He's missed 12 games in 11 seasons, which is astonishing durability. It's enough time to become officially the greatest Bulldog of all time. He's probably going to leave footy having left $2 or $3 million on the table, but that's okay. He will do it in terms of the next 30 years of his life. So is the cap space for fellow veterans? There is. Big decisions ahead. Adam Treloar, Liam Jones, both desperate to play on, both of them with injury issues. Jones last week with form issues. What's your take on these two veterans, beloved veterans?
Yeah, I think surely it's depending on what they've got in terms of picks, that they're worth sticking around, aren't they? And I'm sure you'll get them on team-friendly deals as well. So I can't imagine Adam Treloar's expecting the next contract to be paid the same amount as what he was paid on the last contract. So I don't know, for whatever it's worth, my opinion would be why not roll out with him one more year? And same with Liam Jones. And even if he's not your best 22, as we've seen on the back end of this year, that is a more than handy break glass and in case of emergency moment if something happens to O'Donnell or Lobb.
Quick update on Jamarra Ugle-Hagan. The saga rumbles on. He trained the house down off the flu and bereavement leave last Wednesday. Spoken to the VFL, so there's 4 VFL games remaining, but if he's not ready for the last VFL game, he would get special dispensation to play finals. The Footscray VFL side is flying right now, so that's a bigger runway than you might have hoped. Lauren, he was at training last week. Was he there this week?
He trained twice last week and trained quite well. I spoke to the club today. He wasn't at training yesterday, but they were satisfied with the reason that he gave for not attending yesterday. So day off today for the Bulldogs, back into it with a main session tomorrow. So as you say, Ralphie, I suppose as that clock is ticking ever so closer to the end of the season, it really is just about getting those sessions in and really doing the work as they've put on him.
Now, the NFL is about to seriously upset the AFL's finals plans next year. I know you're a big NFL man. Yes. I don't know if you're an LA Rams man. So my understanding is Friday, September 11 is the likely date for that clash. Friday morning in Melbourne, Thursday night, of course, in round 1 of the NFL season. So Friday morning clash there would mean that it's semi-final weekend. What happens for the AFL? What happens if Carlton and Collingwood both qualifying for those home semi-finals? Now, the AFL could turn around a game and the MCC into a Saturday night game. They don't do Sunday finals. And so there is that situation there where the AFL has a clear weekend. Eddie Maguire's talked about pushing the entire season back 2 weeks, an October grand final. I don't think that's likely. AFL is really on board with this. Like, they understand that they actually need to get away from this, that this is not one where they can exert their will against a rival code. But there's no easy answers here. Well,
they're known for the big hits in the NFL, aren't they? And it's well and truly on a collision course.
I like it. I like the idea of Eddie's theory of pushing it back. I think that would work really well. You could have your pre-finals bye while that's happening and then avoid whatever clash there could be. You know what will happen, though? We'll get there and everything will be moved around and it'll be like Adelaide and Brisbane hosting finals that weekend or whatever. It never would have been an issue to begin with. But, that's certainly a watch going forward. Yeah. So that's next year's fixture. What about this year's fixture, Loz?
Yeah, so I've spoken to the AFL. There have been reports, of course, that there could be shifts to that round 23 fixture and that Channel 7 had been potentially looking to reshuffle that fixture, particularly with, we've got Essendon and St Kilda, I think it is, on the Friday night that weekend. I can tell you categorically that the AFL are firm that the round 23 fixture will continue as scheduled. It just creates too many flow-on effects. If we start shuffling at this time of year with days break heading into round 24, we've got the Cyclone game as well. I also spoke to them about Thursday night games, and Chief Executive Andrew Dillon spoke on the record about how firm they are. It's backing in Thursday nights. I know the last few weeks, I don't think it's attracted more than 40,000 for the last 10 weeks, Ralphie. It is averaging about the same crowds as it was last season. Broadcast numbers are up, but they are adamant that, you are going to have a year like this every now and then. It's one of the anomalies. A shame it's come in the first year of an entire season of Thursday night games, but they're firmly backing it in as a fixture of the fixture, if you will.
We've done this year, we've done next year. What about the AFLW fixture? So there's 6 AFLW games at Windy Hill. Now, 2 of those are in October. There's an uneasy truce between the Cricket Premier League and, of course, the Essendon AFLW team. So today, as Paul, Amy and I have reported, Cricket Victoria has put 2 of those games, their own cricket games, slap bang in October, exactly in the weekends that the AFLW fixture is there. So basically this is the hill they're prepared to die on. They're saying we should have 6 months of footy, 6 months of cricket. AFLW would say, hang on, this is a national competition, so we have the right to try and dictate terms. It's heading for mediation, it's heading for maybe compensation for Cricket Australia. I like the fact that Cricket Victoria is standing up to the AFL, even if they won't eventually win the battle.
I mean, it's cheeky, isn't it? Like, they're well and truly at loggerheads, and I suppose there's all of these sorts of tenancy arrangements that go back decades. No one really knows who has signed what, but, geez, it's going to be a compelling fight.
There's been one club that's put Essendon, the Windy Hill on the map, and that's Essendon, as a football club, and yet the Lawn Bowls forced the men's team out, and now all of a sudden the cricket season's going to force the women's team out. They can't get any rights over over Windy Hill. You say Windy Hill, I tell you what, you don't think of the Lawn Bowls club or the...
You think of the Lawn Bowls club because they won the battle and all of a sudden Essendon moved out to the hangar in Tullamarine.
Poor old Bombers, and they're going to lose the rights to that as well.
It is compelling. You watch that one closely. The one we will watch closely, of course, is the Stephen May tribunal tomorrow night. Ralphie, you're reporting it is effectively one of the most decisive cases that we've seen, in 10 years, that there's figureheads at the AFL that are really calling this the biggest line ball call that they've seen in years. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, I've made enough calls to think that this is the defence of the Melbourne Footy Club. They're convinced that Stephen May will get off and they think that the Alex Pearce case is the key. Well, of course it is, but why? Melbourne believes the fact that it's a marking contest for Alex Pearce rather than a ground ball actually helps them because with Pearce, the ball was in the air. It wasn't moving there. Now, with May, on a slippery night, the ball bounced and bounced and they felt that it was absolutely going to bounce towards May. So in that case, Tribunal Chairman Jeff Gleeson said when he dismissed the Pearce case, it has never been the Tribunal's position that a concussion inevitably results in a careless finding. Adrian Anderson, the Melbourne advocate, will go to work on that statement. Pearce's testimony was absolutely compelling. So Stephen May battling a concussion, but they believe that he doesn't need to gild the lily or, a little bit of the tribunal drama. He will tell the truth. I absolutely believe they had a play on this ball. I believe they would get there first. I was almost shocked when I didn't get to that football, and as a result, unfortunately, I caused a collision. Their position is that it would actually add confusion and indeed chaos if he was actually suspended, because we would be totally confused about where we're at when we got a bit more clarity with Alex Pearce a few weeks back.
Well, it's a very unique situation when we have a concussed player giving evidence in a tribunal hearing about a concussed player. But I spoke to the Ds today and all indications are that Stephen will give evidence tomorrow night if he is feeling OK. He was back in at the club today. That, of course, was the reason why they got it pushed to tomorrow night.
Would you ring Alex Pearce if you were Stephen May just to say, hey, what did you say? What should I say?
Can't hurt. Take the time difference into account. Hit him up early afternoon tomorrow. Ralphie, you've had a big story break this afternoon, of course, surrounding homophobia in the AFL. We've had a really another unfortunate case where this has come to the fore again. Tell us about the latest.
Another's the word. So that's 6 of them, of course, since Alistair Clarkson in about March last year. So Riak Andrew and a homophobic slur against a VFL player from North Melbourne. My expectation is that'll be a 5-week penalty, more likely to come out tomorrow. So Danny Ladley says tonight that the AFL's dropped the ball on its education program. So 6 incidents, transgender advocate, premiership player, of course. We know Danny and love her well. She says the AFL had her in to do some workshops with their own team and with Tanya Hosh's diversity team. The expectation was she'd roll those out across the clubs. Instead, she was shocked when Tanya Hosh said, no, we've got an online module for the players. And so the only really extensive education for players, pride in sport, is if they transgress, which seems laughable to me. So as Danny says, there's probably 50 or 70 players who have the same issue she did, that are hiding in silence or are potentially gay and not talking about it. Every time one of these issues comes up, 6 of them in about 16 months, it drives them further and further under the surface. And I tend to agree with her.
And I think that's it. It's a lot of people see the pride flags and everything else and they think, oh, here we go, it's another politicised issue or whatever it turns out to be. I mean, really what this is at its core is a health issue. Gay youth are 5 times more likely than their straight friends to contemplate suicide. So basically what we're trying to do here is to create an environment which is a better mental health environment for young people that fall into this particular community. So I actually think it's on the players. I used to be very critical of head office and have been in the past, and I think a matrix would serve the game really well, but I actually think this is on the playing cohort. It's on the PA, it's on those like Darcy Moore.
Isn't it up to us, the AFL, to educate the players, though? Or should they know better already?
I mean, every single workplace is already... Like, you wouldn't be able to use some of this language, on the floor in our office space or, anywhere else around the country. And so they are playing catch-up to the rest of the community. They're not leading in this particular space. So it's time that the players basically get together, lead the way, the senior players across all 18 clubs and say, look, when we hear this, we're going to call it out. We're not going to tolerate it any longer. And they've done that in the past when it comes to things like, racism in the game or Islamophobia or whatever it turns out to be. So they can do it. It's just, do they have a willingness to be able to clean up some of that language?
Yeah, well said. Lauren, we've had 108-second goal reviews that were sent back to the AFL umpires. We've had incorrect goal reviews with Judd McVie. How big a role will ball tracking play next year in the men's competition?
I saw you there with the stopwatch counting every one of those 108 seconds. Well, could it be in next year? I think it's unlikely. It is going to be assessed at the end of this season. Of course, Greg Swan's football portfolio is vast and wide, and this will technically fall under that. So it will be looked at as part of his wide-ranging review at the end of the season. I think most people feel like it is another year or two away. Yep. This will be its 2nd season in AFLW.
Does that suggest that it's not good enough right now? If they can't bring it in right now in concert with the current ARC system, sure, there's whiskers on it.
No, so it's when you say with the current ARC system, so I can tell you that is the major hurdle at the moment. As it stands in AFLW, it is ball tracking technology on its own. You bring it into the men's, it has to work in tandem with the score review and the ARC. The way that someone put it to me yesterday was it's a little bit like an Apple trying to talk to an Android. These two things, the chip in the ball and, of course, the score review system, they have to be able to speak the same language to each other. So this is something that the technology boffins in at AFL House and in this ball tracking space are really working on, because I think the AFL are conscious too at the moment, as you say, Ralphie, with all of these issues. If they are going to go down this path, and I think we all think that they will at some point, it actually just has to be right within an inch of its life. They can't add in another layer of technology and, footy's new cyber frontier. We all know that it's coming, but I just think this thing has to be absolutely seamless. Otherwise, we're going to end up in exactly the same situation again, aren't we?
That's 2 more years of Jared Waitley complaining, and with good reason as well. Yep. You're a big fan of the under-16s. You think Essendon's got a couple of free kicks there. They need something. They need some kind of assistance, the poor old Dons.
Well, the National Carnival was last week, so this is an interesting group of players, basically because this will be the first group that are eligible to go to Tasmania under the 2027 draft. So it is going to be a compromised draft, and so I think a lot of clubs will be thinking, hang on, which players do we have access to? And whether that's through NGAs or through father-sons, there are 3 familiar surnames that were running around on the weekend and all starred. So Kobe Buick, who's the son of Darren Buick, 2-time premiership player, smooth mover, spoke to a player agent today who said, look, he is Dacos-like with his kicking, so high
say that again.
Dacos-like for Kobe Buick. Father-son to Essendon. They also will have access to Tavita Roden, who is the son of David Roden. I'm not sure we've had a son of an umpire run around or a daughter of an umpire run around in one of our major competitions anytime recently. Inside midfielder, a little bit taller than David, but he's NGA eligible to Essendon. He's also father-son eligible to Port Adelaide, so given the fact that David played there. And speaking of Port Adelaide father-sons, the name there, Stephen Salopek's young bloke, Louis, who smooth-moving left footer, 185 centimetres, played across all three lines. So there's a couple of famous surnames that'll make people nostalgic. I'm sure Loz watching on that their young blokes are coming through the system.
Yeah, it could be an interesting call for David Roden, of course, too, if he's assigned to one of his son's games in the years to come. We'll be back with plenty more on the other side of this break here at the Midweek Tackle, including some breaking news around Bobby Hill, giving you the latest on his contract situation. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Midweek Tackle. Ralphie, there's been so much talk about Bobby Hill. He could play VFL this weekend, but what about next year?
So he's not going anywhere. The whispering campaign had it that because his partner, for the short-term period right now, had moved back to Perth. There was a lot of people prepared to tell you, look, Bobby might be heading back there as well. So I've checked in with his camp, with Collingwood. He's going nowhere. You know, the ink is barely dry on that new long-term deal. They're really confident this is a blip on the radar, challenging family circumstances, but that he's happy in Victoria, and the Norm Smith medalist will stay at the Pies for the long-term future.
Speaking of the West, biggest team in town, the West Coast Eagles, do they deserve a priority pick, Ralphie?
Of some form. So they won't be asking for the pre-draft priority pick, number one overall. They'll, of course, get Oscar Allen as when he departs as number two, so I'll have the first two picks anyway. I think they'll ask for extra rookie picks. I think they'll ask for extra selections that would allow them to secure the points for some of those NGA kids, a lot of those WA Indigenous kids, and they want to get them on their list, which is the right decision. So the talent drain is extraordinary. Now look at their list, and this is part of the submission that I think they'll put in. So 2 top 10 picks right now on their list. 7 players taken in the top 20. Gold Coast has 10 top 10 picks. North 10. Look at that list. Extraordinary there as well. GWS has 19 top 20 selections to their 7. And so at some stage there, the AFL has to intervene. How would you intervene if you were the league?
I would give them an end of first round pick, but put a rider on it that they must trade it to another team. Okay. So then with the hope that you get, say, an experienced West Australian player back who, you know, ordinarily might be worth pick 30 or something, but because you've got pick 20, you use that as a bargaining tool, price someone out, and hopefully it'll make them more competitive immediately. Yeah,
I think we need to do it sooner rather than later too. We can't let this drag on like has happened in years gone by. It's a drain on the comp, really, isn't it? So what about at the Roos? Bit of contract stuff here, Ralphie. Colby McKercher, they're being forced to pay big numbers with Tassie looming in the wings.
$1.7 million for those 2 seasons, 27 and 28, so $850,000 a year. Tassie was certainly aware of it and was a little bit rocked by it all. It's the Tassie tax. It's massive money, but it's what you are allowed to be paid when you've got such leverage as a Tasmanian. So Riley Sanders at the Dogs, there's no way they can afford to pay him $850 with their star-studded midfield right now. I wonder how long his deal plays out, Riley. And Joey Montagna, of course, put Zane Dersmer on the agenda a couple of weeks back, disgruntled, not getting a game, would he go elsewhere? He's been having a lot of conversations with Alistair Clarkson about his role, and he's really clear on what it will be. And so the club is telling him, you're not going anywhere. They absolutely know that there's pressure on him. Dan Curtin, who was taken later in that top 10, he's flying right now. He's actually playing VFL as a defender. So last week he was pushed back just to get a kick, to get some confidence, 18 possessions. He might be grumpy, but he is going nowhere. And look, such talent as I think it was a pick 4 a couple of years back. Every recruiter thought he was a star. Still think that he's got the capacity to be that player.
We'll talk about pressure. There's been pressure on the Docklands roof. Corbin, you've got the latest on what's happening at Marvel.
We love Marvel Stadium, but it had a little mishap last week where the roof didn't quite shut fully. They've had it serviced. It's done a few more tests. It's all OK. Extreme wind can basically cause the roof to get stuck.
It wasn't the carburetor, was it? Or wasn't the for valve?
It's all OK. It's all OK. And then last week, the ground was a little bit wet because there was an unexpected shower that came through. And the roof actually takes 15 minutes really to shut. It's 8 minutes from start to finish. But OH&S, you can't shut the roof when there's people on the ground. So by the time they kick everyone off the ground, shut the roof, it's about a 15-minute turnaround. So it was a little bit wet, but there's a big celebration coming up tomorrow for Marvel Stadium. So 25 years since the stadium opened back in, the early year 2000.
I was there that day. Michael Long, first goal.
That's
right.
I'm
old.
Against Port Adelaide. I have been told there's a special announcement coming tomorrow and maybe a return to early 2000s prices at the footy at Marvel Stadium. So something to look forward to.
Oh, boy.
Tassie tax, pie tax, all the rest of it. Now, in terms of what are you tackling, I'm taking the reins on this one, boys, and I'm driving us to this one because I've got one coming a little bit later in the week. A little bit left of our usual centre. But looking at Maryborough Football Club, the 153-year-old club, arguably one of Victoria's, potentially one of Australia's oldest clubs, home of Hall of Famer John Nichols, Jed Adcock, Kai Lohmann. There's a raft of AFL players, Stu Crummery, another, on the brink of collapse. And it's an incredibly sad story unfolding up there in the historic town of Maryborough. So they've left the Bendigo League. They're trying at the moment to get into the Maryborough Castlemaine Football League. There was a vote last week. They were voted against entering that competition. So obviously everybody is hopeful that this doesn't mean the end of an historic club that has produced so many great players.
Well, there's enough clubs out there that are dying of their own will. And so if they're desperate to play, find them a home.
That's exactly right. Players, people, volunteers that could potentially be lost to the game. We certainly don't want to see that. That one's coming later in the week, of course, with all of the latest news and features at codesports.com.au. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on the Midweek Tackle.